So now that we've covered the three basics, let's talk about what most of you do. You take your sample down to your local pool store, maybe he was your builder, maybe it's the local retailer, and you take a sample of water in. Yeah, I want you to remember where you're going with this water, okay, and what their motives are. Most retailers, they've trained their people to identify certain test results as problem areas. And most of the time, they just don't turn out to be a problem. The main one that I'd like to address at this time is called cyanuric acid. Cyanuric acid was developed in 1960 and started using in swimming pools because it helps deflect the UV rays. It can act like a sunscreen. That's what I always have called it. It was a sunscreen. But what it does help the UV rays from evaporating chlorine. Chlorine evaporates at about 97 to 98 degrees, somewhere in there. It evaporates. It's too hot. And so to protect that, you add the conditioner, as it's called. It's called pool stabilizer. It's called CYA, but it's all cyanuric acid. And when people hear the term cyanuric acid, they kind of get worried because what is cyanuric acid? Well, acids fall into two basic groups, weak acids and strong acids. Hypochloric acid is considered a strong acid. Citric acid is considered a weak acid. It won't hurt you. Cyanuric acid falls in the category of weak acid. It will not hurt you. It will not harm you. It says so in the manufacturer that makes this test kit. It will not harm you. A few pages over, it tells you that there are officials in some cities that claim that if their CYA in their commercial pools are over 100, they're going to close you down. They consider that unhealthy. So you've got one page saying that, hey, it's okay, it won't hurt you, and then you have another page saying, too high is really, really bad. And that's where the pool retailers start to get you. You take your water in, they tell you that your cyanuric acid level is too high and your chlorine is not working well and you've got algae and you can't seem to get control of it. That's why you bought the water to them. Cyanuric acid is probably 8 on a list of 10 of things to look at when you're having trouble with your water balance. It just isn't so. For years, I worked with a pool builder that built 300 to 400 pools every year. I was involved in the startup of those pools, turning them on when they were full of water, tap water that is, and had to balance the water. And the pool company had a bucket for this, a bucket for that, and a bucket for this. This is what you went in and put in. And we put in 2 pounds of stabilizer. It didn't matter if the pool was 10,000 gallons, if the pool was 25,000 gallons. We put in 2 pounds of stabilizer. And we never, ever, ever had a problem with overstabilization of pool water or anyone getting hurt in any way that we were putting too much stabilizer in there. What you have to remember, if you're using a DE filter, a sand filter that discharges water while you backwash. Every cycle you backwash, you should be using 250 to 300 gallons of water. And if you backwash at regular intervals like the manufacturer has recommended, you're going to be changing out approximately 15 to 1600 gallons of water yearly of fresh water that has no cyanuric acid in it. So do you have to worry about cyanuric acid levels? Yes, you do. I'm not saying that you just ignore them. There is a point at which you can get too much cyanuric acid in the water. The result of that will be no matter how much chlorine you add, you just can't get rid of the algae, no matter what. Then you take a look at where's my cyanuric acid level, where's my total dissolved solid level, and that's the total dissolved solids is number 9 on the list of 10. That is important when you're trying to diagnose a problem that just won't go away with regular chlorine. So in that event, you would need to probably take some water out of the pool, replace it with fresh water. Maybe halfway down, maybe a fourth of the way down, depending on what the level actually is. But cyanuric acid does not need to be tested every single week. It is added to the pool normally once at startup and then never, ever again addressed. And why is that? Because I just told you that you're replacing 1,600 gallons of fresh water that has none in it. Well, the reason is because the way you're going to maintain your pool is with tablets that I discussed earlier. Chlorine tablets are referred to as stabilized tablets because they have cyanuric acid in them. So why? Because it lasts longer when it goes in the water. So when you're using tablets to replace your daily consumption of chlorine, you are constantly refeeding your cyanuric acid back to the water. Hence the argument that the retailers make, well, you're using tablets, aren't you? You're using 4 to 5 a week, aren't you? Look at all the stabilizer you're putting in the water. Don't you see that? Well, that is an issue, but I'm telling you that tablets do not create an overabundance of cyanuric acid in your water. Now, I say that and I have to put an exception there, because if you have a cartridge system as your filter on your pool, you have what we call a closed system. You can't get fresh water in it. The only way to get fresh water in is for it to rain and run out and you replace that water. So your water can get old and it can build up. So that would be the exception to the rule. So now that we've covered the cyanuric acid issue,